Have you been seeing a lot of food sensitivity tests on the market and you have no idea which one is actually accurate and that you want to get? Keep watching, we tell you more. Okay, there's so much marketing on food sensitivity tests right now, you guys. Like, I can hop on Facebook and I'm just bombarded with all these ads for all these at-home food sensitivity tests, you name it. And what's really funny is that I will probably get, now that my phone is listening to me, I'll probably get lots of ads now because I'm talking about it. Dang you, Google. I want to talk a little bit about behind food sensitivity testing, like what it actually means. So there's a little bit of a science part, and I feel like that's really vital for you to actually make a decision on what test that you want. And then I will share, when I started my practice, I was looking for a food sensitivity test and, I had my pick of the litter. I could have chose any one. And I can tell you a little bit about my decision making of why I chose the one that I did. So yes, there's a little bit of bias because I do use one in my practice, but like I said, I had a pick of the litter, so there's a reason I chose the one that I did. So I won't name any names on food sensitivity tests, but I will call them IgG tests because this is a very common test or method, I should say, that other companies use to do food sensitivity testing. And I'll show you why that's a little bit of a hiccup, not the correct way to test. So, what are food sensitivities? That's what I'll start with. Food sensitivities are not allergies. They are different. Food sensitivities happen when a food triggers the immune system to release mediators. These mediators are what produces inflammation. And these mediators are chemicals like histamines, cytokines, prostaglandins. Those are what is producing inflammation, what causes symptoms. So now that you understand that part, how does that relate to testing? So IgG testing is a very common way, like I mentioned. You can think of IgG as the middleman. Yeah, he's the middleman of the reaction. So let's say X, test X. In test X, they tell you that if you are high, your IgG is high, that's what they're testing, then you are sensitive to the food. And then you get your results back and you'll see your foods that was high in IgG and that you're sensitive to. Now, the thing is that if your IgG is high, that doesn't technically mean that inflammation is the next step. Not always, sometimes, but not always. So if you don't release those inflammatory mediators, those histamines, cytokines, prostaglandins, all those, if you don't release those, then inflammation doesn't happen. And if inflammation doesn't happen, then symptoms don't happen. So this is where it gets a little funky. And there could be false positives and false negatives because, just because your IgG is high does not mean inflammation is happening. This is why I chose the MRT for our practice, because the MRT is the endpoint test. This is what's testing those mediators. So is this food, a broccoli, producing these mediators, histamine, cytokines, is it triggering it? So we're taking out the middleman and we're just looking right there at the end. This is huge. How the MRT works is that they look at the changes in liquids to solids after your blood has been exposed to the food that is being tested. And this is able for you to see the reaction of all your immune cells, which goes into another reason why the MRT is so ideal for food sensitivity testing is because there's also what's called type 4 hypersensitivities. These types of sensitivities are not immunoglobulin based. So they have nothing to do with IgG, they have nothing to do with IgM, they just have nothing to do with immunoglobulins. They only involve a cellular response. So if your food sensitivity test, that tests for IgG, and there's sensitivities that don't even use that pathway, then you're going to miss them. So as type 4 is a cellular response, this, again, involves more of like the T cells, macrophages, and all that. I won't get into that because I know that can be over your head if you have no science background whatsoever. But this is why I find it so important to grasp the behind the scenes of how food sensitivity tests work, because no matter what you spend, whether it's $99 or $500, you want to be sure as much as possible. There's always, that small percentage of not being accurate, but you want to be sure that, like, hey, this is the test I have taken and these are the foods I'm sensitive to, and I'm confident about that, right? At least that's what I think. And another thing I love about the MRT is that it tests food chemicals. This is really cool. So I'll use caffeine in coffee for an example. So someone could be okay with coffee, but they are a little bit, if the MRT, it's green, yellow, red. Obviously red being the worst and green being okay. So they could be like yellow with caffeine, but they're okay with coffee. So what does that mean? What this means is that those food chemicals are very dose dependent. So while you're okay with coffee, you can have some coffee, but can you have like 1 cup of coffee and be okay? Or can you have like 10 cups of coffee and be okay? I think 10 cups of coffee probably wouldn't be okay in general. If you need 10 cups of coffee to go through your day, then we need to have a chat about that. But you're able to have coffee, but at doses, because there's obviously caffeine in the food. So I think that's a really cool way as well to understand the dosing part of it. So you don't go overboard and then all of a sudden coffee is causing inflammation because you are sensitive to the caffeine food chemical. So if you have any questions, I would love to hear them. I know this is a really weird, tough topic. And if you have done IgG testing and you've gotten results, awesome. I do think that I've also seen people that have done it and felt fine, but then some people that have done it and there's lingering things. And I've also had clients that have done both. They've done MRT and IgG around the same time. So I love it because we can compare. And I've definitely seen MRT pick up other things that were missed. Because like I said, there's type 4 hypersensitivities, and of course, not every IgG response is going to produce inflammation. So I don't want you avoiding a food that you actually don't have to avoid. So if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below, but feel free to book a discovery call up here with our team of dietitians and nutritionists that we take your health seriously. We want to help you feel better, change your diet, change your lifestyle so you can get back to recognizing the body that you love.